Our last four amendments are also very important. We'll move through them a little quicker. We'll start right here with the 7th Amendment. And here again, this one's simply stating that anything over $20, a citizen in the United States can ask for a jury trial. And most people actually take the opportunity to have a jury of their peers hear their case in court. Now, $20 back when the Constitution was written back in 1787 and ratified, $20 back then would have been a lot of money. But the Constitution is clear, and we have not changed that. $20, even in the year 2020, if it's over $20, you still have the right to request a jury. There are three rights here in the 8th Amendment. And we'll just start with the first one here. Number one, no excessive bail. Excessive meaning too much, all right? And bail is another way of saying bonding. What that means is if I am charged with a crime, all right, the 6th Amendment kicks in. I have the right to a speedy trial. I have the right to move things along quickly, and I have to appear before a judge. At that point in time, the judge will read out the charges to me, and I can say, not guilty, Your Honor. And if I plead not guilty, then immediately the bail process kicks in. I have the ability to post bond, or some people call it make bail. In which case, my defense attorney, which I'm guaranteed by the 6th Amendment, I have the right to counsel or the right to an attorney. My attorney will be trying to get the judge to make it as low amount of money as possible. The prosecuting attorney would be trying to get the judge to make it as high amount of money as possible. If I post my bail, which is money, I give it to the court, and then I am free. I am free to go and live my life, as long as I promise that I will return to the courthouse to face the charges and to go through the trial system. And as long as I do that, the money that I post for bond or bail will be reimbursed. Now, if I don't appear for court, I lose that money, and then of course another warrant for my arrest would be issued. But as long as I make bail, I have my freedom until it's time to go to trial. And even during the trial, I have my freedom. Remember, in our system, we are innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and juries have to find me guilty beyond a reasonable doubt unanimously. All right? So, no excessive bail. It has to be reasonable. Who chooses in the end what is reasonable bail? A judge. Same here on number two, no excessive fines. All right, if I've committed a crime where I'm not going to be incarcerated and have my freedom taken away, a lot of times to punish or to get justice for a misdemeanor, if you will, I would have to pay a fine. But fines must be in accordance, all right, and they must be fair. For example, if you let's say you had a misdemeanor, they will fine you for a minor offense, $1 million fine for jaywalking. That is excessive, and our Constitution protects us from that. And then of course number three, no cruel or unusual punishment. If you are found guilty, all right, we are not into the torture business. All right, if you go into having to have your freedom taken away, you will go to a county jail or to a state penitentiary where you were then treated decently. You have the right to bed, you have the right to 3 square meals a day. We do not torture in the United States. And there's always been that argument about capital punishment, where states reserve the right to take your life if a heinous crime has been committed, like murder of some sort. That is still always debated, whether capital punishment meets the qualification for cruel or unusual punishment. In most states, it is for the most heinous crimes, capital punishment is still in place. The 9th Amendment states that people have rights beyond the Constitution. So you and I have inalienable rights. Even if they're not mentioned in the Constitution, we still have them. And then it's up to society through the voting process and through state legislatures who represent the people, who pass laws, all right, that the process of guaranteeing those rights are in place. But just because it may not say specifically in the Constitution doesn't mean that you and I do not have that right. All right, and the final one that we're going to talk about today is the 10th Amendment. And the 10th Amendment basically says that states have rights that are not expressly conveyed in the Constitution. For example, if it is not expressly written in the Constitution, that power then goes to the state. A prime example of a state right would be speed limits. Right? There is no federal speed limit. In Utah, if you get on a freeway and you're out in open space, right, you can go 80 miles an hour. As soon as you cross, if you're going to Las Vegas, as soon as you cross into Nevada, right, the Nevada state law is 75 miles an hour. And if you go from Nevada down into California, California on a freeway is also 75 miles an hour. So those rights that aren't specific in the Constitution go to the states. States get to make those decisions. Speed limit is an example. Education is another example. It says nothing about education in the federal Constitution. So education belongs to the states. When you come to class, and we're talking about certain things in this class, I have to follow a state core, because these are the things that the state of Utah wants you to know. And when you graduate from high school, that will be a diploma from the state of Utah. Say in Arizona, people who graduate from high school in Arizona, they might have different rules and regulations than you would in Utah, because that is a states' right issue. So education, speed limits, those are all issues for states. Elections, we have no federal election law, which, as we are finding out, some states are better at handling elections than others. But in these types of situations, when you're running for president, you're basically running through 50 different state elections. There is no federal law on how elections should be run. We have 50 separate laws and rules on how elections should be run at the state level, because that is not issued in the Constitution. That is a right that goes to the states. And you now have a brief overview of all of the 10 amendments, and they are known as the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. The First Amendment talking about our freedoms of religion, speech, the press, and the right to peacefully assemble and to petition the government. The Second Amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. The Third Amendment, to be free from having to house in peacetime military troops. Fourth, the right to privacy in our persons and in our property. Fifth, your right to, in case you are brought into the judicial system, your judicial rights, which the right to remain silent is a great big one, and that you cannot be deprived of private property without compensation. That's another big one, to protect private property rights. Of course, the Sixth Amendment, those 6 rights talking also about your rights within the judicial system. The Seventh Amendment, requesting jury trials. The Eighth Amendment, meaning that the government cannot go overboard, especially when it comes to torture, how they treat us as citizens, that equality of citizens that the government must respect. And then, of course, we have rights beyond the Constitution. Just because it's not written in the Constitution doesn't mean we don't have the right. And then finally, the last amendment in the Bill of Rights states have rights. If it's not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, it then means that the state has the right to oversee that. We talked about speed limits, elections, and education as 3 prime examples where the states have the rights to dictate that. And that is the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution.